Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. At this very moment, Donald Trump's political career is spoiling faster than a box of Trump steaks left out in the sun. A brand new poll shows record levels of disapproval for the job that Donald Trump is doing as president, with key parts of his political coalition now completely turning on him. A poll from the Washington Post, ABC News, and Ipsos shows that just 37% of voters approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing as president. 62% of them disapprove. Washington Post adds this, quote, his ratings among Republican-leaning independents have reached a new low of 56%. His approval rating stands at 25% among independents overall. One former Trump ally turned critic, the former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, puts it like this, quote, MAGA is dead. Watch.
Today, we're in a time where many Americans are realizing MAGA is dead. And do you want to know who took the actions to kill MAGA? It was the creator and the founder himself, Donald Trump. When we campaigned on lowering inflation and reducing gas prices and caring about domestic issues that matter to Americans, the White House front door became a revolving door to foreign leaders, not to Americans, and not to industry leaders and those involved in working on the domestic solutions that Americans needed.
So the issues Marjorie Taylor Greene is talking about there, inflation and the cost of everything, that has become Donald Trump's biggest political albatross right now. 23% of Americans approve of Donald Trump's handling of the cost of living. In that Washington Post, ABC News, Ipsos poll, a whopping 76% disapprove. Pollster and publisher of The Bulwark, Sarah Longwell, told me in this week's episode of The Best People that voters right now do not like what they're seeing, and they know exactly who's to blame for it. Watch.
Number one, everybody thinks the state of the country is bad, which is why right track, wrong track is so low. These guys reinforce that with their everything's terrible. And then they immediately go to how expensive things are and how the war in Iran is raising them, how tariffs are raising them. And this is one of the reasons that Trump's numbers are starting to fall, and where the objective reality kicks in is that people know that the tariffs are Trump's. People know that the Iran war is Trump's. They don't think it's Congress. They don't think it's somebody else. They know Trump is doing it, that he made the call to do it, and that it is raising their prices, and that is what they are mad about.
Meanwhile, there is brand new reporting on how big parts of Trump's coalition, the parts that provided the money and the volunteers and the support for Donald Trump to win the Republican nomination 3 times and prevail in the general election twice, are also souring on the job Donald Trump is doing as president. Look at this headline in the Wall Street Journal. The anti-abortion movement is turning on Trump. From that reporting, quote, abortions are up in the years after the overturning of Roe, and the anti-abortion lobby has a new locus for blame. Trump is the problem, they say. The president is the problem. That's Marjorie Dannenfelser. She's the influential president of the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America. Big source of their frustration is the fact that the Trump administration is allowing abortion pills to be shipped by mail. But they're not the only special interest or activist group that is mad at Donald Trump right now. Politico reports this, quote, leaders in RFK Jr.'s Make America Healthy Again movement are outraged over Donald Trump's Surgeon General nominee switch since Trump announced Thursday that Nicole Saphier, a radiologist and former Fox News medical contributor, will replace Casey Means, a close ally of the health secretary, as Donald Trump's pick for the...
Iran's state media now claims that that country's Navy has prevented the U.S. military and U.S. military ships from entering the Strait of Hormuz. This is just as President Trump, as I mentioned, says that American forces will begin guiding ships through that very same strait. A note here, a U.S. official tells CNN that guiding is not the same thing as escorting, as has long been discussed and not implemented, which, yes, raises a whole host of questions about how this actually works now. And so far, shipping data shows almost no traffic is moving there still. On this announcement from Trump, Iran responded by publishing a new map of the strait. The red lines that you see right there, those are the boundaries of the expanded zone that Iran now claims it controls, and warns that, well, the quote is, Any foreign military force will be attacked if they try to approach or enter the key oil route. Overnight, gas prices ticked up about a penny, but the national average, remember, we've been tracking over time, has jumped 35 cents in just a week to $4.46 a gallon. Let's go to CNN's Kevin Liptak. He's live this morning for us at the White House to start us off. What are you hearing about all this? There seems to be quite a bit happening as we speak.
Right. And I'll start with some of those claims that we've seen in Iranian state media over the last hour. You know, I've been talking to officials. No one had heard that an American ship had been struck, which was one of the claims that you heard from one of the Iranian state media sources. Now, Central Command, just in the last few seconds, coming out with a statement denying this, saying that no U.S. Navy ships have been struck. U.S. forces are supporting Project Freedom and enforcing the naval blockade on Iranian ports. So trying to clear up at least one of the pieces of information that's out there as the president tries to get traffic flowing again through this critical waterway. You know, in the past, the Iranians have claimed to have struck American vessels. It turned out not to be true, but I still think it underscores some of the risks that are inherent here as President Trump tries to get vessels flowing through this Strait of Hormuz. It has the possibility, if the Iranians fire back, of breaching the ceasefire, which is still in place, but obviously something that the president doesn't want to be affected as he tries to pursue a diplomacy with Tehran. You know, it's not precisely clear what some of the American assets that CENTCOM has said will be involved in all this will actually be doing. They say it will involve guided missile destroyers, more than 100 aircraft, drones, 15,000 service members, but how all of those assets sort of play in to reopening the strait isn't precisely clear. An American official said that Project Freedom was not an escort mission, and so we don't know exactly what guiding will mean. I think the suggestion is that the military will essentially coordinate with these ships to show them which channels in the strait are the safest, and sort of through their presence in the region provide some reassurance to these vessels. But of course, this claim today by the Iranians, I think, just underscores why so many shipping companies and ship pilots don't want to cross through the Strait of Hormuz because they believe it is unsafe. So a number of challenges, I think, for the president. That's underscored by what we've seen in the shipping traffic just this morning. They have shown that virtually no tankers or cargo transiting through the strait, despite what the president said would be going into effect today. Of course, you also have the diplomacy at play here. Yesterday, the president saying that he was disappointed. He thought the Iranian proposal was insufficient, but also at the same time saying that these discussions are very positive, saying that they could lead to something very positive down the line. And so I think a lot of conflicting information here as this new initiative takes effect.
We have conflicting reports, frankly, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. U.S. Central Command is denying claims by Iranian state media that a U.S. warship was struck by Iranian missiles near the Strait of Hormuz. This is happening just as President Trump said that American forces will begin guiding ships through the strait beginning today. Now, we should note that a U.S. official tells CNN that guiding is not the same thing as escorting, so it's really not clear how all of this is supposed to work. Iran does claim that it has prevented U.S. military ships from entering the strait today. It also published a new map with red lines showing the expanded zone that Tehran now says it controls in the strait, so you can see an area both inside and outside the Strait of Hormuz. Iran warns that, quote, any foreign military force will be attacked if it tries to approach or enter the strait. So far, shipping data shows almost no traffic is moving there. The strait, as far as we can tell, is effectively still closed right now. Overnight, gas prices ticked up a little bit. The national average has now jumped 35 cents in just 1 week to $4.46 a gallon.
Political coalitions don't collapse the way buildings do. All at once, with a clean implosion, you can point to an timestamp. They rot. They fry at the edges first, then the middle goes soft, and by the time the structural failures become undeniable, the damage has been accumulating for months. What we are watching with Trump's base right now isn't the beginning of that process. It's the part where the rot becomes visible to everyone, including including the people who build in structure, start with the numbers because the numbers are genuinely extraordinary. 37% approval in the Washington Post, ABC, Ipsos poll, and that's arguably the generous rate, with other reputable surveys landing closer to 32, 33. Non-college white voters, the single most reliable constituency Trump has cultivated over a decade of political identity construction, are now majority disapproving. On the economy, he carried those voters by less than 30 points in November. The collapse of that margin doesn't just complicate the electoral math, it dissolves it. There is no gerrymandered map, no turnout operation, no messaging strategy that survives a 30-point swing among your core voters on the issue that matters most to them. The arithmetic simply doesn't work, but the polling is almost secondary to what's happening at the coalition level because the defections aren't coming from the usual suspects. This isn't never Trump, Republicans, or suburban moderates who were always skeptical. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who spent years as one of Trump's most aggressively Congress defenders, who made her entire political identity out of proximity to him, is on camera saying MAGA is dead and that Trump himself killed it. That's not a pivot, that's a rupture, and the anti-absorption movement, which delivers organization muscle, donor infrastructure, and moral credentialing to the Republican coalition for decades, the moment that Trump specifically pointed to as his greatest achievement when the Dobbs decision came down, is now publicly calling him the problem, not a disappointment. The problem. The Surgeon General refight is a smaller in scale but revealing in what it signals when RFK Jr.'s made America's Healthy Again network, which was supposed to be a new ideological tributary following into the Trump coalition, immediately got to social media register outrage over a personal decision. You are watching the transaction model of Trumpism break down in real time. The deal was always implied. These groups provided legitimacy, enthusiasm, and voters. Trump provided policy wins and cultural validation. The anti-abortion movement got Dobbs and watched abortion rates go up and absorption pills keep shipping. MAGA got a healthy secretary and then watched their preferred Surgeon General nominee get swept out of a Fox News contributors. The transactional math is no longer adding up for the people who were supposed to be the beneficiaries. Tim Dillon's framing, and I'll give credit where it's due even when the source is unexpected, is probably the most honest diagnosis of what's actually happening at the mass voter level. Trump's political dominance was always, at its core, an entertainment product. The rallies, the feuds, the daily outrage cycles, the sense of being part of something transaggressive and alive. That was the show. And when the show stopped being good, when the ratings drops, the audience doesn't stay loyal out of ideological commitment. They change the channel, and when they change this channel, they walk out in a world where it's gas expensive, groceries are expensive, and there's a war happening that nobody adequately explained to them. The absence of the show doesn't create a vacuum, it creates space for maturely reality to fill.